Greetings, greetings, greetings. It is I, your king again, Clifford Jefferson, descended from the house of Godfrey on the fifth count of Ban Juice, on the folk ruler of Jerusalem, incarnation of Godfrey, King Edgar the Peaceful, as you know it, who is Jesus Christ. Here by my side, all the ways, Archbishop Belmont from the house of Belmont. We come to conclude part 3 of Common Sense. Let Archbishop say a couple of words, and then we can get back to this marvelous lesson. It'll be about 15 minutes, so we won't hold you too long. Archbishop.
Welcome again, people from the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. It's I, Archbishop Belmont, from the Noble House of Belmont, once again, for us to come and bring you part 3 of Common Sense. And like I said, from part 2, common sense ain't so common. And hopefully with this information that we're giving you from those who say they created your nation, they will bring your senses back to you, so that way you can start stepping back into a position that help rebuild community, friendliness, kindness, love, support, and understanding with each other by knowing that it has to have a head via the king. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. If the king has something else to want to say before we go ahead, I digress.
Nah, well said. We want to fly right through this because a man can neglect the present concern. If he does, he do away everything he has. You have some prior obligations as well as I myself, but we had took the time to come serve the people, a little bit more information that will hopefully bring them closer to their quest that they are all crusading on in regards to their return home. And with that, let's get started. What was that? Why does that do that? Okay. Okay. Therefore, where'd you leave off at?
It was past, going down. All right.
Right here. Okay. All right. So he said to deny these principles will be not less observed than to deny the plain these axioms. Mm-hmm. And I should not therefore attempt any further illustrations of them. You say when I assert that since America have not by any act of theirs empowered the British Parliament to make laws for them, it follows they can have no just authority to do it. I advance a position subversive of that dependence, which all colonists must, from their very nature have on the mother country. The premises from which I draw this conclusion are indisputable. You have not detected any fallacies in them, but endeavor to overthrow them by deducing a false imaginary consequence. My principles admit the only dependence which can subsist consists with an idea of civil liberty on with the future welfare of British Empire as well as the period hereafter. The dependence of the colonies on the mother country you assert has ever been acknowledged. It is the impropriety of speech to talk of an independent colony. The words independent and colony convey contradictory ideas, much like killing and sperm. As soon as the colony becomes independent on the parent state, it ceases to become longer a colony. Just as when you kill a sheep, you cease to spare him. So meaning that if you descend from your parent country, you can't be a colony because you got the authority to establish colony by your parent country. Mm. We didn't give you that. Your mother country gave you, and the monarchs of that mother country.
And that's wrong. The Roman
Catholic. Wrong. Roman Catholic, well said. In what sense? The dependence of the colonies on the mother country had been acknowledged will appear from these circumstances of their political history, which I shall by recite. The term colony signifies nothing more than a body of people drawn from the mother country to inhabit some distant place or the country itself so inhabited. As to the degree of modification of the subordination, which is due to the parent state, these must depend upon other things, besides the mere act of immigration to inhabit or settle a distant country. These must be ascertained by the spirit of the Constitution of the mother country, by the compacts for the purpose of colonizing, and more especially by the law of nature and the supreme law of every society on its own happiness. Mm-hmm. The idea of colony does not involve the idea of slavery. There is a wide difference between the dependence of a free people and the submission of a slave. The former I allow, the latter I reject. with disdain. Nor does the notion of a colony imply any subordination to our fellow subjects in the parent state. While there is one common sovereign established, dependence of the colonies on Great Britain is an ambiguous and irrevocable phrase. It may either mean dependence on the people of Great Britain or the king. In the former sense, it is absurd and unaccountable. In the latter, it is just and rational, i.e. the king. No person will affirm that a French colony is independent on the parent state, though it acknowledges the king of France as the rightful sovereign. Nor can it with any greater propriety be said that an English colony is independent while it bears allegiance to the king of Great Britain. The difference between the dependents is only that which distinguishes civil liberty from slavery and results from the different genius of the French and English constitution. But you deny that we can be lead subjects to the king of Great Britain while we disavow the authority of Parliament. You endeavor to prove it thus. The king of Great Britain was placed on the throne by virtue of an act of Parliament, and he is king of America by virtue of being king of Great Britain. He is therefore king of America by an act of Parliament. And if we disclaim that authority of Parliament, which made him our king, we in fact reject him from being our king. For we disclaim that authority by which he is king at all. Admitting that the king of Great Britain was enthroned, i.e. put on the throne, by the virtue of an act of Parliament, and that he is king of America because he is king of Great Britain, yet the act of Parliament is not the efficient cause of his being the king of America. It's only the occasion of it. He is king of America by virtue of a compact. Remember who's talking?
Mm-hmm.
Remember Alexander Hamilton's talking. He said he is king of America by virtue of a compact between us and the king of Great Britain, kings of Great Britain. These colonies were planted and settled by grants and under the protection of English kings who entered into covenants with us for themselves, their heirs and successors. And it is from these covenants that the duty of protection on their part and duty of allegiance is on our arises. Did y'all hear that? This is Alexander Hamilton. He said, so that to disclaim the authority of the British Parliament, how much time are we working with, Archbishop?
I still got like another 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. You can still go.
Okay, so that to disclaim the authority of the British Parliament over us does by no means imply the reliction of our allegiance to the British monarch. Our compact takes no cognizance of the manner of their ascension to the throne. It is sufficient for us that they are kings of England. That's sufficient enough. The most valid reason could be assigned for our allegiance to the king of Great Britain, but not one of the least force our plausibility for our subject to the parliamentary decrees. Let me move down a little further. Okay. The law of nature and the British Constitution both confine allegiance to the person of the king and found it upon the principles of protection. We may see the subject discussed at large in the case of Calvin. The definition give it by learned Coke, i.e. Edward Coke, is this: allegiance is the mutual bond and obligation between the king and his subjects, whereby subjects are called his liege subjects, because they are bound to obey and serve him, and he is called their liege lord, because he is bound to maintain and defend them. Hence, it is evident that while we enjoy the protection of the king, it is incumbent upon us to obey and serve him without the interposition of parliamentary supremacy. The right of Parliament to legislate for us cannot be accounted for upon any reasonable ground. The Constitution of Great Britain is very properly called a limited monarchy, the people having reserved to themselves a share in legislature as check upon the real authority to prevent its degenerating into despotism and tyranny. The very aim and intention of the Democratic Party or the House of Commons is to secure the right of the people. Its very being depends upon those rights. Its whole power is derived from them and must be terminated by them. Did y'all hear that? It must be terminated by them. And in closing, it is the unalienable birthright of every Englishman who can be considered as free agents to participate in framing the laws which are to bind him, either as to his life or property, but as many inconveniences would result from the exercise of this right in person, it is appointed by the Constitution that he should delegate it to another, i.e. the King's bench. Hence, he is to give his vote in the election of some person he chooses the confidence as his representative. These whites, no power on earth can devise him up. It was enjoyed by his ancestors time immemorial, recognized and established by the Magna Carta, and is essential to the existence of the Constitution. Abolish this privilege, and the House of Commons is annihilated. And with that, we'll say peace and love.
Peace, peace, peace.